As December arrives, most people simply count down the days. But successful people ask different questions. What worked this year? What failed? And what did it teach me? Which habits built my future? And which quietly held me back? As the calendar closes, are you boldly designing your next chapter, or hoping for luck to do the work? The last month doesn't end the year. It defines the one to come. Although he built his empire earlier, Ford was known, even in his later years, to treat the last month of the year as a time for analysis and redesign. Every December, he reviewed what failed in his factories just as carefully as what succeeded. Instead of celebrating profits alone, he would ask, where did we waste time? Where did we lose efficiency? What must be simplified for next year? He believed that reflection without action was useless, so December became his month of planning improvements, eliminating waste, and setting clear objectives for the coming year. Another strong example is Walt Disney. Every December, instead of slowing down, he gathered his creative team to reflect on what stories worked, what audiences felt, and what innovation was next. That's when long-term ideas like EPIC and advanced animation planning were shaped. While others celebrated endings, Disney used December to begin the future. These individuals didn't treat December as the end of a year. They treated it as the design room for the next one. As December arrives, the world grows louder. Streets glow with decoration, calendars fill with gatherings, inboxes overflow with year-end demands, and everywhere people rush to finish what they delayed for 12 long months. Most men and women are swept along by this current as if it were natural, inevitable, as if the noise of the world must become the noise of the mind. But the successful individual does something altogether different. He understands that before a man can close one chapter of his life with intelligence, he must step away from the crowd and become still. You see, progress does not begin in motion. It begins in awareness, and awareness can only be found in silence. In the final month of the year, successful people do not become busier. They become quieter. They deliberately create moments of solitude. They shut the door, turn off the device, and withdraw not from responsibility but from distraction. In that quiet space, the fog of daily life begins to lift, and the broader view reveals itself. Most people rush through December as they rush through January, February, March, and all the months in between. They react, they respond, they survive. They allow the world to pull them in a dozen directions until their lives feel like scattered pieces rather than a designed plan. But the successful person understands a vital truth. You cannot direct your life from inside the storm. Picture a man standing in the center of a crowded street, horns blaring, people shouting, traffic moving in all directions. Can he clearly see where he is going? Can he plan his route? Of course not. But now imagine that same man rising above the street to a quiet rooftop, looking down. Suddenly, the direction becomes obvious. The path becomes clear. Solutions that were once hidden reveal themselves. This is what silence in December does for the mind. In that stillness, a different type of conversation begins, a conversation with oneself. Questions arise that the noise never allows. Who have I become this year? What have I really achieved? Did I move closer to the person I want to be or farther away? These questions are not comfortable, but they are powerful. And power always begins with clarity. The successful person is not afraid of this silence, because he knows that within it lies the blueprint of his future. He knows that creation does not come from chaos, but from calm. That discipline is born not in excitement, but in reflection. That change is sparked not by noise, but by understanding. While others are escaping into celebration, consumption, and distraction, the successful retreat into thought, into evaluation, into intention. Not because they reject joy, but because they understand timing, and they know this simple log. The man who cannot pause at the end of the year will repeat the same year again. So December is not merely another month on the calendar to the successful person. It is sacred ground, a bridge between who he was and who he is about to become. And the first step he takes upon that bridge is silence. Not the silence of emptiness, but the silence of power. When the mind has finally grown quiet, when the outside world has faded into a distant whisper, there appears before the successful individual a mirror. Not the ordinary mirror that reflects the surface of a face, but a far more powerful one. The mirror of truth. And now, in the stillness of December, he dares to look into it. Most people avoid this moment their entire lives. They soften their failures. They decorate their mistakes with excuses. They tell themselves stories that feel good but mean nothing. They blame the economy, their circumstances, their upbringing, or simply bad luck. In doing so, they protect the ego and sacrifice the future. But the successful person understands something that sets him apart from the crowd. You cannot improve what you refuse to see. So he performs what few are willing to do, a brutally honest review of his year. He looks not at intentions but at results. Not at what he meant to do, but at what he actually did. Every important area comes under examination: his work, his finances, his health, his relationships, his discipline, his mental attitude, his use of time. He asks direct questions. Did I grow, or did I simply age? Did I move forward, or did I stay in the same place under a different calendar? Did I act with purpose, or did I drift with habit? There is no judgment in this review, only truth. For he knows that guilt weakens but honesty strengthens. He is not searching for someone to punish. He is searching for facts, and facts are loyal servants of success. He examines the promises he made to himself in January. How many were kept? How many were forgotten? And more importantly, why were they broken? Was it lack of discipline, lack of clarity, fear, comfort, distraction? While others write lists of accomplishments to impress the world, he writes lists of weaknesses to improve the self. For he knows that lasting growth does not come from celebrating victories, but from identifying limitations. And as he studies the months behind him, something remarkable happens. Patterns begin to stand out. He sees the exact moments where he gave up, where he delayed, where he chose comfort over change. And he also sees when he stood firm, when he acted in courage, when he persisted. This is a sacred activity, and it requires bravery. Because truth does not flatter, it instructs. The successful individual does not fear this instruction. He welcomes it. He knows that the man who can face the truth about yesterday is the only man capable of creating a better tomorrow. Think of a doctor. If the doctor refuses to run tests, avoids the X-ray, closes his eyes to the symptoms, the patient suffers. But if he examines the condition with honesty and clarity, a cure becomes possible. Your life is the patient. Your December review is the diagnosis. And the successful man does not skip the diagnosis. He understands that the purpose of reflection is not regret, it is correction. And correction is the foundation of greatness. Once the truthful review has been made, once the facts of the year lie clearly on the table before him, the successful individual moves into the most valuable stage of all, the extraction of lessons. For he knows a secret that few have ever fully grasped: all experience is not equal. It is only evaluated experience that becomes wisdom. Many men live through decades of life and yet grow no wiser. They repeat the same mistakes, encounter the same obstacles, form the same unhealthy habits year after year, calling it life. But the difference between the ordinary and the extraordinary is this: one merely passes through time, while the other learns from it. In December, successful people become students of their own past. They take each setback, each delay, each disappointment, and ask a new question. Not, why did this happen to me? But, what is this here to teach me? In this question, the pain begins to change its nature. What was once a burden becomes a message. What was once a failure becomes instruction. And what was once regret becomes a guide. For the successful person understands this powerful law. There is no loss, only a lesson unrecognized. He begins to see that his greatest teacher was not his success, but his struggle. That his finest instructions were written not in moments of ease, but in moments when he was tested, challenged, humbled, and forced to grow. Where did I act too quickly? Where did I trust the wrong voice? Where did I underestimate myself? Where did I delay when I should have decided? In these questions lies the blueprint for transformation. And as he writes down these lessons, something remarkable occurs. The confusion of the past starts to organize itself into meaning. Random events become connected. Disappointments begin to make sense. He sees that many things did not happen to him. They happened to shape him. This understanding produces a quiet confidence, not arrogance, but awareness. Because now he knows, whatever happens next year, he will not meet it as the same man. He will meet it as a man who has learned. You see, nature itself operates on this principle. A tree does not break in the storm, it strengthens its roots. A river does not stop at the rock, it learns a new path. And the successful human being follows the same law. He does not collapse under experience, he converts it. And so December becomes his classroom, and his own life becomes the textbook. He does not need a guru. He does not need a lecture hall. The events of his year contain every lesson he needs, if only he has the courage to read them. While others are busy forgetting the year as quickly as possible, he studies it carefully, because he understands that the future does not reward the forgetful, it rewards the prepared. And so he closes his journal, not with disappointment, not with pride, but with clarity. Clarity born of lessons. And lessons properly learned become the foundation of wisdom. And wisdom is the beginning of true success. When the lessons of the past year have been gathered and understood, the successful person takes the next essential step. He begins to look beyond isolated events and search for patterns. For he knows that a single mistake may be accidental, but a repeated mistake is a message. A single victory may be luck, but a repeated victory is a law. Most people live their lives as though each day were separate, disconnected from the one that came before it. They wake, they eat, they work, they react, they sleep, and then they wake again, believing that today is new. But the truth is far different. Today is the echo of yesterday, and tomorrow will be the echo of today. In December, the successful individual reads these echoes. He lays out his year like a long road behind him, and he studies where the turns were taken, where the pace was strong, where the steps were confident, and where they faltered. He asks himself not only what happened, but how often it happened. How many times did I delay what was important? How many times did I choose comfort over progress? How many times did I rise early to pursue what mattered? How many times did I give in to distraction? He begins to see a familiar shape appearing again and again, like a signature written by his own habits. And in that discovery lies an astonishing realization. A man's life is not built by his dreams. It is built by his patterns. You see, success and failure are not great, dramatic events that occur once in a lifetime. They are quiet routines, small decisions repeated day after day until they become a destiny. The successful person understands this, and so he studies the smallest details. He looks at his mornings, his evenings, his conversations, his reactions under pressure, his choices when no one was watching. And in this observation, he finds the invisible forces that have been shaping his life all along. He may discover that every big success came after a period of disciplined focus, that every setback came after relaxation of standards, that every breakthrough happened when he committed to consistency, that every breakdown followed carelessness. These realizations are not emotional, they are mathematical. They are not based on hope, but on evidence, and evidence, when recognized, gives a man control. You see, most people believe their lives are being controlled by outside forces, the economy, luck, society, other people. But the man who observes his patterns begins to understand something both frightening and liberating. The greatest force shaping my life is me. And in that awareness he finds power. Because if habits created the past year, then habits can create the next. If patterns produce problems, then patterns can also produce solutions. And so December becomes more than a month of reflection. It becomes a month of revelation. Revelation of the truth that has always been there, hidden in repetition. And it is this truth, seen clearly, that gives the successful individual the ability to rewrite his future. Once the patterns of the past year have revealed themselves, once the successful person clearly sees which habits lifted him upward and which dragged him down, he arrives at a moment of decision. This is not a time for gentle thinking or polite excuses. This is the moment for courage. This is the moment for removal. Nature itself teaches us this principle. A tree that grows strong does not cling to dead branches, it releases them. If it did not, those dead branches would drain its strength, block its growth, and eventually damage the entire structure. So, season by season, the tree lets go of what no longer serves it so new life may take its place. So it is with the successful individual in December. He understands a truth that many avoid their entire lives. Progress is not only about adding new things, it is about removing the old ones that no longer belong. If he is to step into a greater version of himself, he must be willing to say goodbye to parts of the smaller one. And so he looks directly at the weak links in his life. He looks at the habits that quietly sabotage him: oversleeping, procrastination, negative thinking, wasted hours, unhealthy routines. He looks at the conversations that drain his energy rather than inspire it. He looks at the commitments that produce stress instead of growth. He even looks at the environment he has allowed to form around him: cluttered, noisy, disorganized, careless. And with honesty and firmness, he begins to cut away what does not serve the future he is about to build. This is not easy. The weak links feel familiar. They feel comfortable. Some of them have been with him for years. And comfort, as strange as it may seem, is one of the greatest enemies of progress. For comfort whispers, stay where you are. It is safe here. But the successful person knows another truth. Everything truly great lies on the other side of comfort. So in December, he becomes disciplined with his decisions. He decides that the old excuses will no longer enter the new year, that the same distractions will not cross the calendar with him, that the laziness, the doubt, the poor habits, and the toxic influences will be left behind where they belong, in the past. He does not make these decisions in anger. He makes them in clarity. Just as a gardener pulls out weeds to protect the flowers, the successful person removes weakness to protect his vision. Some friendships may have to change. Some routines may have to be broken. Some pleasures may have to be sacrificed. But he understands A man who tries to bring everything into the future will bring nothing of value. Only the disciplined traveler arrives at the destination, and so he steps through his life with the mind of an architect and the heart of a warrior. He clears space. He removes clutter from his schedule, from his mind, from his spirit, and in that emptiness something beautiful begins to happen. Room is made for strength. Room is made for discipline. Room is made for greatness. And as the final days of December pass, he feels lighter, sharper, more focused, because he is no longer carrying the unnecessary weight of yesterday. He has cut the weak links, and what remains is strong enough to build a new year. After pausing, reviewing, learning, identifying patterns, and eliminating weak links, the successful individual arrives at one of the most powerful moments of the year, clarifying the real vision for the year ahead. December to him is not simply a month to close accounts or celebrate past victories. It is a month to gaze forward with precision, to define not just what he wants to achieve, but who he truly wants to become. For he knows this profound truth: success is not merely what you do, it is who you become in the process of doing. Most people enter a new year with vague hopes and wishful thinking. They say, I want to earn more, I want to be healthier, I want to improve my life. Yet these statements are clouds without shape, shadows without direction. They are aspirations, but they are not vision. The successful person understands that the difference between hope and reality is clarity. Without a crystal clear vision, desire has nowhere to land. So in December, he asks himself the defining questions. Who am I becoming? What kind of man or woman will I be when this year closes? How will my mind, my habits, and my character evolve to create that life? These questions cut deeper than goals ever could. Goals measure the surface of achievement, vision shapes the soul of progress. For while money, recognition, and awards are temporary, the person who achieves greatness knows that long-lasting success stems from identity aligned with purpose. He does not merely dream of success. He visualizes himself living it, waking early with energy and focus, speaking with confidence and integrity, acting with discipline when no one watches, making decisions that honor both present values and future ambitions. He pictures the habits he must adopt, the mindset he must cultivate, and the relationships he must nurture. Every detail is vivid, every intention is precise. This clarity does something extraordinary. It creates a magnetic force in the mind. The brain, having absorbed a sharp, detailed vision, begins to unconsciously steer actions, decisions, and opportunities toward that reality. People with clear goals succeed because they know where they are going. But the modern successful individual takes it further. He knows that clear vision is not only about direction, it is about becoming. And herein lies another secret: a clear vision for the year is never limited to material or external accomplishments. It includes mental resilience, emotional balance, ethical strength, and spiritual alignment. December is the month to ask, am I living as the person I aspire to be, or am I settling for what is convenient? The successful person answers honestly. Then, with courage, he commits to the vision, not as a vague intention, but as a guiding principle for every action, every decision, and every habit that will shape the year ahead. By the time the last days of December pass, he does not step into the new year uncertainly hoping for improvement. He steps in already aligned with the man he intends to be, ready to act with purpose, focus, and unstoppable momentum. Vision, after all, is the bridge between where you are and where you are destined to go. And December is the month when that bridge is built, plank by plank, with the hands of discipline and the mind of clarity. Once the successful individual has clarified his vision, once he has seen the person he must become, the life he must lead, and the habits he must adopt, the next essential step is to translate that vision into specific, actionable goals. For a vision without action is merely a dream, and while dreams inspire, they do not produce results. December for the successful person is the month of turning imagination into measurable reality. Most people enter a new year with vague intentions. I want to earn more. I want to lose weight. I want to be happier. These are aspirations, not goals. They are like arrows shot into the night. With no target, they cannot hit. The successful individual, however, understands a critical principle: a goal must be definite. It must be measurable. It must have a deadline. So in December he asks himself, what exactly must I achieve? How much? By when? By what method? He writes these goals down with precision. If he wants to increase income, he specifies the amount. If he wants to improve health, he lists the exact weight, strength, or endurance. If he wants to develop a skill, he identifies the milestones and the steps necessary to reach mastery. Vagueness is eliminated, clarity becomes his weapon. But more than numbers, he considers the why behind each goal. He asks, why is this important? What will it give me? And the answer is always tied back to his vision, his ideal self. This ensures that the goals are not random or imposed by others, but are the logical extension of the person he aspires to become. Goals without meaning are easy to abandon. Goals connected to identity are unstoppable. Next, he sequences them. He understands that not all goals are equal. Some will provide leverage for others. Some must be tackled first to make the path smoother. December becomes the month to plan the hierarchy of achievement, to prioritize the actions that will create the greatest impact. He also anticipates challenges. Goals are not meant to be easy. They will require focus, discipline, and sacrifice. By thinking ahead in December, he creates strategies to overcome obstacles before they arise. This is what separates the successful from the hopeful. Hope is reactive. Planning is proactive. Finally, he measures commitment. A goal without personal commitment is like a ship without a rudder. He tests his readiness to follow through, and if necessary, refines the goal until it inspires action, not hesitation. By the time the last days of December arrive, the successful individual is not entering the new year with vague wishes or good intentions. He carries a blueprint for action, each goal clearly defined, each deadline set, each step mapped. He knows exactly where he is going, why he is going, and how he will get there. And with this preparation, he begins January not with hope or uncertainty, but with a disciplined, measurable, and unstoppable plan. Because vision without specific goals is a dream, but vision with goals is destiny in motion. Once the successful individual has transformed his vision into specific, measurable goals, he does not stop there. Most people believe that setting goals is enough. They write them on paper, speak them aloud, and then wait for life to magically align. But the truly successful know a vital truth. Goals without a system are fragile. Success without structure is a fleeting illusion. December is the month to design the system that will make the year inevitable. You see, a goal is like a destination on a map. But knowing the destination alone does not get you there. A system is the daily route, the roads, the fuel, the discipline, and the habits that turn movement into progress. Without the system, a goal remains a dream. With it, the impossible becomes routine. In December, the successful individual examines the habits, routines, and processes that will serve the achievement of his goals. He asks, what must I do every day, week, and month to make these goals unavoidable? He does not focus solely on inspiration, for inspiration is fleeting. He focuses on consistency, on rules that guide behavior even when motivation fades, on disciplines that produce results regardless of circumstances. Every goal has a system. If wealth is the goal, the system might include disciplined budgeting, daily investment study, or a weekly review of financial progress. If health is the goal, the system might include scheduled workouts, meal planning, and nightly reflection on energy levels. If skill development is the goal, the system is the daily practice, the feedback loops, the incremental improvements. December becomes the month to carefully map these structures before the year begins. But the successful person also designs his system to account for failure. He knows that life is unpredictable, that obstacles will arise, that temptation and distraction will test him. So the system includes safeguards, routines that protect time, reminders that reinforce priorities, strategies that correct deviation before it becomes a habit. He does not rely on luck or willpower alone. He relies on the architecture of his life designed intentionally and thoughtfully. There is a profound freedom in a well-designed system. Once the rules are clear, the individual no longer faces daily uncertainty. Decisions are guided by structure rather than impulse. Energy is preserved for execution rather than deliberation. Fear of failure diminishes because the system ensures that small, consistent actions build momentum toward the desired outcome. And as December comes to a close, the successful individual is ready, not with wishful thinking, not with hope, not with vague inspiration, but with a complete, repeatable, predictable system, a daily engine capable of carrying him toward success. He knows that the year will be shaped not by occasional bursts of effort, but by the disciplined, consistent application of his system. Success is the progressive realization of a worthy ideal. But the modern successful individual knows that ideals alone are not enough. Systems are the bridge between vision and reality, and December is the sacred month when that bridge is built, plank by plank, ready to carry him across the challenges and opportunities of the year to come. By the time the successful individual has paused, reviewed, extracted lessons, identified patterns, eliminated weak links, clarified his vision, set specific goals, and designed his systems, he has built a powerful plan for the year ahead. But he knows one more truth, a truth that separates the ordinary from the extraordinary. No plan, no matter how brilliant, will succeed without preparation for resistance. December, therefore, is the month to anticipate obstacles and fortify the mind, for the coming year will test resolve at every turn. Most people assume that the path to success is smooth, that desire and motivation alone will carry them forward. But life does not work that way. Challenges arise, doubt creeps in, temptation whispers, energy wanes, and those who are unprepared often abandon even the best laid plans at the first sign of difficulty. The successful person, however, does not wait to be surprised. He expects resistance and plans accordingly. In this preparatory stage, he identifies the likely sources of friction, moments when he will feel like quitting, distractions that will steal his attention, habits that will tempt him to revert, people who will challenge his focus. He examines past experiences, recalling where he faltered, and asks, what triggered the weakness? What circumstances made it easier to give in? How can I respond differently next time? This careful examination allows him to anticipate failure before it occurs. But anticipation alone is not enough. He creates strategies to overcome resistance. If procrastination is a threat, he designs accountability systems. If negative thinking is likely, he develops mental exercises to shift perspective. If energy wanes, he plans routines to restore it. Every obstacle is countered with a pre-planned action. He knows that preparation in December reduces struggle in January, and that foresight is the ultimate advantage. The successful individual also strengthens his mind. He rehearses resilience. He visualizes challenges and sees himself responding with discipline, courage, and composure. He internalizes the truth that resistance is not punishment. It is the natural test of progress. By meeting it with anticipation and strategy, he transforms obstacles into stepping stones. And here is the profound distinction. While others are blindsided by setbacks, the prepared person meets them as expected. Where others panic, he acts. Where others hesitate, he executes. Resistance, rather than stopping him, becomes a measure of his preparedness, a proving ground for the systems and habits he has established. December, therefore, is not just a month for reflection or planning. It is a month to build mental armor, to rehearse courage, to anticipate struggle, to ensure that when the year arrives with its inevitable trials, he does not stumble. He advances with confidence. People with clear goals written down and supported by a system do not drift through life, they move with purpose. But purpose is only truly powerful when fortified against resistance. And the successful individual enters the new year not merely hopeful, not merely organized, but prepared, ready to turn every obstacle into an opportunity for growth, progress, and ultimate achievement. After months of reflection, analysis, planning, and preparation, the successful individual arrives at the final step in his December journey, stepping into the new year before it even begins. This is not a metaphor. It is a deliberate, conscious act. While most people celebrate the stroke of midnight, toss to vague resolutions, and hope the year will somehow improve their lives, the successful person has already entered it mentally, emotionally, and strategically. He understands that the new year does not wait for the calendar. It is created by the man who is ready to live it fully from day one. Most people wait for January 1st as if the universe itself will magically provide a fresh start. But a date on a calendar changes nothing. Life does not reset. What changes the trajectory of a life is the preparation and intention applied before the world turns the page. In December, the successful individual has already reviewed the past, learned the lessons, identified patterns, eliminated weak links, clarified his vision, set goals, designed systems, and prepared for resistance. All that remains is action. And so he acts. Even before January arrives, he visualizes the first week, the first month, the first quarter. He walks through the coming year in his mind, rehearsing decisions, responses, and habits. He imagines challenges and sees himself overcoming them. He experiences success in advance, planting seeds of confidence, clarity, and momentum. This mental rehearsal creates a magnetic pull toward the reality he intends to live. But stepping into the year early is not only mental, it is practical. He begins adjusting his environment, organizing his time, and establishing routines that will support his goals. He does not wait for the calendar to give permission to rise early, to exercise, to focus on growth, or to cultivate the discipline he knows will determine the year's outcome. He begins living the future today. This mindset produces a remarkable advantage. When January 1st arrives, the successful individual does not scramble to catch up. He does not stumble through uncertainty, tempted by distraction or procrastination. He does not waste energy figuring out where to begin. He is already in motion. He has already begun living as the person he intends to become. And momentum, once gained, compounds relentlessly. The principle is simple but profound. The man who begins early captures the advantage of time. While others are making resolutions, he is executing. While others are uncertain, he is decisive. While others are reacting to circumstances, he is shaping them. December becomes a bridge, not a closure, a launchpad, not a pause. Success is the progressive realization of a worthy ideal. But the truly successful person knows that ideals are not only realized by desire or planning, they are realized by living in advance, by thinking, acting, and feeling as the successful version of oneself before the world demands it. And so when the calendar flips to January, he does not step into a new year, he steps into a continuation of what he has already begun, confident, prepared, disciplined, and unstoppable. December, in his hands, is no longer merely an ending. It is the month in which the future is claimed before it even arrives.